welcome to Competitive Advantage. I'm Colin, he's Noah, and we are back for the third episode, which means the joke I always make, it's gone a lot farther than some projects that I do. How about you, Noah?
It's good. I get a little let down during our intro every time so far because in my head I feel like I should see their progress in the men excavating or building the hammer, and they're
Oh
just
man,
not
that'd be
making
really
any.
great.
Feel like I wonder what happens on the next one. I wonder how much of the hammer is left, and I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not how this works.
I don't have the technology skills to do that. Is an issue.
Someday,
is a problem. We don't have our. Oh, here it is. There we go. Okay,
what
so
if Green Tide?
But what if Green Tide? So this is a fun morning. We've had some absolute chaos so far. So I woke up. I was supposed to wake up at 6, and I woke up at 5 because it's more appropriate. And I kind of rolled around frustrated, and then I got up at 6:30 to first text message, DACA's been nerfed. Great, it's going to be a wonderful day. Second text message was from my bank. It was less good news. Third thing was I came to my office and I looked at my laptop and realized that my kid is on a trip with my AirPods. And my laptop that I record on is, of course, only USB-C. And so I'm like, no idea how to fix this problem. So I run across the property to the Charity Hammer garage where there is left behind things. And I find this gaming headset and I get back and discover that there's no way to plug it in and the USB doesn't work. And anyways, we solved the problem. Oh, and then 5 minutes before the show, my wife said, hey, I need you to load this heavy box into this car. Okay. So it's been a morning. But Noah's had a better morning because he woke up to like good work news.
Yes, I had an interview that was scheduled for yesterday at a very late time because of literally at midnight. And then the person didn't show up because they're in Spain. So, they didn't show up. So I went to bed and I woke up to, hey, the only opportunity we have is at 7:30. Otherwise, we will have to wait a bunch of days. And this job is this is a very good progress that we want to happen faster. And we want it to happen on this timeline, and it's doing well. So I will be jumping away for 30 minutes in the middle of the show, and then I'll be coming back.
Which I'm cool with. I think that's going to be great. Yeah, I think that'll be really good. I think that you should go do that. That's really what I'm saying. I don't know how great it's
now.
Going to
Click.
Yeah, I don't know how great it's going to be. I am not entirely sure what I'm going to talk about for that 30 minutes. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to do our main story. And actually, we're going to do the good, better, best. Or that's not right. Wow.
Good, better, best. Oh, no. That's a good morning.
Good, better, best. No, we're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly to get us started. That's always a great. We'll do our hobby update. We'll do the good, bad, and the ugly. We might do my WTC segment that I'm now doing at that point of learning WTC terrain. And then there's going to be a break where I talk about other things. And then Noah's going to come back for the last half an hour of the show, and he's going to teach us a thing. What are you going to teach us, Noah?
I'm going to talk about what I call list or army qualities and how they influence list building.
Okay. Yeah, cool. And so if you want to see that, you can skip to an hour into the YouTube video right now because that's where it's going to be. Okay. So that's how that works. I'm pretty sure. Wow, I'm really low down. All right,
here we go. This morning's going, who knows?
Colin is he is a little bit scattered.
This morning is adrift we're adrift in the warp, Colin. We just need to get our Geller fields online, truck along, exit our Eye of Terror, and get to our location. Let's go.
I do not have an engine seer, and my understanding is that they're important in this process.
Yeah, you are awashed with yourself as a Farseer and a Big Mech, and that's all we got.
Yeah, that's right.
Farseer and a Big Mech.
It's a Farseer and an Orc. It's a buddy comedy coming to Amazon Prime.
Oh my gosh, can this please be the next? Can we have Bailey run another RPG season after this one? where you and I play an orc and a farseer as part of like a messed up buddy comedy, like odd couple forced together situation.
I think we need a I think we need a pet, so it's like we got like some Turner and Hooch action going on as well. Like we need like a sidekick animal of some sort, like a monkey. I think is important.
Oh, like what's the one with the laser fingers?
Oh yeah. Okay, so getting us slightly back on track. It has been a silly morning, as you can see. So what we're going to do first is do our hobby update. What have you done this week that's 40K related, Noah?
Very little. I have put more black lines on orcs.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. I have thought a lot about 40K and hoped that today would be a nerf to DACA, because a lot of my things were currently like, do I need to modify my list for the list submission, which is at the I think tomorrow, the list submission for Wet Coast. Because if DACA exists, I need to add another squad of commandos and some other stuff, and then we'll talk about what happened. But I don't have to worry about it anymore. So now I'm going to start playing TTS games starting tonight.
But you already know your list.
Right, but I want to win a golden ticket with my list, so I'm going to get now I need reps into Shadow Legion, because I don't have Shadow Legion reps yet.
Well, fair enough.
I do not care about reps into DACA now. Do not care.
They don't have the math anymore. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I also did very little on the 40K front, and the reason, well, that's not entirely true. My direct 40K playing, I didn't get any games. No, that's not true. I played Alex McDougall, and we had a great game. And I'll talk about that. That's actually a thing I wanted to talk about that I can vamp with. So let me write that down, because I learned something really interesting in my game with Alex that I'll share with the group. Okay. So Alex and I played a game over TTS that was really great on WTC Terrain, and I will talk about that in a little bit. Hobby-wise, nothing. And then network-wise, oh good, all the dogs are barking. Can we hear that? Because no, you're next to me. You don't get to do that. Gus is here. He wants to join in with the barking that's across the house. Okay, so I'm going to ignore that they're barking and talk over it, which is, of course, a very easy and practical thing to do. Most of my hobby work this week was the network. On Monday, first of all, I'm making shorts, which I've never done before. I'm taking our shows and I'm making funny little or interesting little segments, and I'm shooting them out as a marketing piece, and also kind of a fun thing. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. So I didn't know how to do that, so I had to learn how to do it. That was really fun, and I really enjoyed that. And those videos are already getting like 800, 900 views, which, we had 1.8 thousand. We had 1,800 subscribers when I left content creation. But from what I'm seeing on YouTube, we're not showing up in any of their feeds. All of the people that are finding us are organic, which is kind of incredible and amazing. So that's been wonderful. Like, what I'm trying to say is I'm putting things on YouTube and they're not going to the people that have subscribed to us on YouTube. That's what I'm saying. So that's been really great. This morning we've got this, and then this evening at 7 p.m. Pacific, I'm doing the first episode of the rebooted Better Human, Better Gamer. This episode's called Known 40K Cheater Creates 3 New 40K Shows. I got called a known 40K cheater after making some mistakes at a tournament that was on stream. It's a heck of a story that has some interesting 40K stuff, some drama, which I know everybody loves, and a few other things. So it's a good story. And I'm going to talk about it tonight and talk about what I learned from it and why I'm spending more time on 40K now than I did before. And with me, I'm going to have JT McDowell, Danny McDevitt, and maybe Chuck Arnett. So it should be an incredible show, and I'm really excited about it. So I did wake up to a comment on the video promoting it that said, really weird, really strange way to market yourself. And I thought, I kind of presumed that people would understand in the video that I didn't cheat on purpose and I'm not actually a bad actor, but maybe I should have said that. So I woke up to that anxiety as well. Like, I made this thing that's really important, that's promoting this thing that I'm super hype about. And one of the first comments was, so you're a cheater? Oh. So, yeah, it's pretty funny, right?
You know what? Engagement is engagement. It gives you an opportunity to reply to the comment and say, "No, I'm just bad at sarcasm." And any engagement is engagement, which is good.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's been interesting too. I'll share one more thing. When I came back, our subscriber count dropped for the first like 5 days. And I think that the reason for that was probably people that don't play 40K anymore or just don't care, which is totally fine. But now the subscriber count is up, which means we overcame that delta and have risen up and are actually getting new subscribers. So
That's cool.
I'm super hype about that. Yeah. Okay.
That's super cool.
It is really cool. Yeah. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We should get like a cheesy intro, like five. I bet if I get 5 seconds of the intro to that movie, we won't get in trouble. I'm sure there's a seconds. How many I can use? 8 or something.
I feel like what we really need is we need 3 people from 40K who have great, exuberant announcer voices. Each one to be like the good, like JT McDowell, the good. Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right.
And then someone like that. The ugly should be in like rock metal, like the ugly.
Yeah. Okay. Or Reese.
Oh, Reese would be great.
Yeah. The ugly. I can't do an impression. I'm sorry. The guy who sounds like he smokes and has never smoked a day in his life is just an incredible thing.
He's the godfather of 40K.
Yeah. Okay, so the good. Daka got nerfed. Daka was a wild problem. Daka's win percentage last weekend was confusing and concerning, or maybe it was 2 weekends ago, and I was worried that this would not happen because of that.
53% the weekend before, and this weekend I think it is well over 60.
Okay, that makes me feel better. All right, Noah, tell us about the Daka nerfs and how you think it will turn out, since you were the orc expert, Log.
So there were, in my opinion, there were 2 major issues that made Daka such a problem. Issue number 1 was that they natively got sustained 2 and then assault during the WA. Issue number 2 was that they could at any point for 1 CP turn on the WA on any unit. This was excessively bad because Snagrod gives his unit a 12-inch move while in the WA. So if you were to go first, you would get a 6-inch scout with Snagrod, then be able to send 1 CP, put him in the WA, move his unit 12 more inches, and then charge. So we're talking an 18-inch and then charge with 20 dudes who are -1 to hit and will have a 5+ invul, -1 to hit, -1 to wound, have a 5+ invul until the following turn. So they can basically lock you in your deployment zone for a full turn, so you don't really get to play the game effectively. Meanwhile, they stage up with their trucks, and then once you do start playing the game on turn 2, you get totally annihilated by way too much shooting. That was kind of a play pattern that was occurring, which was obviously not fun and really, really bad. For perspective, 700 points of orcs would kill 3,100 points of marines in a single activation. That's how the math worked out. If I had 700 points of orcs pointing at 3,100 points of marines, I would not have any marines when I was done. That's bad. So what they have done is they have taken away Sustain 2 altogether. They have moved Sustained 1 to be the WA benefit. And the standard benefit for the detachment is that they can all their weapons have assault. I think that is fantastic.
Well, and they overcame the grot problem as well. Did you forget that?
Yeah, that's the second one. The second thing they did is they made that WA thing 2 CP, which means you can't do it in the opening turn because there is no CP gen. You can do an open turn if you go second, which is far less of a problem.
Yeah, that's fine. Now there's people in the way.
Yeah, exactly. I think they did a good job. From what I read, it looks like they did a good job of still making the detachment playable. I think the detachment is still fun. Having an entire army, which actually this is going to be really relevant when I talk later. Having an army where your entire army has assault is really, really, really good. Orcs having assault is good. There are shooting units in orcs that are good, right? You don't need Sustain 2. Sustain 2 is entirely too much. But we'll get there.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited about this. I played against Green Tide, and while I could have played the matchup better, My issue with the army was the amount of I advanced, I'm shooting, and then I'm charging. Because as an elf army, any orc can kill elves in combat. It doesn't matter who they are. So like even Ludas are like, I don't know, let's go get them. Like so, it's a real problem for orcs, and then also or for Eldar, and then also I didn't have a wave serpent usable in that game, so I also had the situation where I had to demech a whole bunch of trucks and kill the guys inside without the ability to get up on them. So with the fire dragons, right? Because I didn't have a wave serpent handy. So I think that this is really good. Like this is a great change, and what I really like about this is that they didn't kill it, because I don't like when they make a new thing and it's too powerful, and then they're like, okay, well, we'll just obliterate it and it'll be gone. Like I don't think Sky Shatter was an interest. Star Shatter, Sky Shatter, the Necron
Star
CBC
Shatter
one, Star Shatter. I don't think that Star Shatter is a particularly good rule set that should exist, but I don't like that it doesn't exist. Right?
gas gun go brrr.
And it's dumb, but that's not the point, right? The point is that they made it. The Necron players were excited about it, and it got nerfed into the ground, and now it doesn't exist. Right? That's not cool, right? If you're excited about the thing, I don't like I don't want Ynnari. I want Ynnari to be nerfed. Let's just be open about that. I think it's too strong. That said, if they nerf Ynnari to the point where it's not playable competitively, I'm going to be frustrated because I actually think the rest of the codex is there. I think the rest of the codex is A tier and has some really ugly matchups that are hard to play around. I think Ynnari gives you the tools where you can actually have a chance to play into those matchups and maybe beat them. So if Ynnari got nerfed beyond the rest of the detachments, as an Eldar player, I'd be frustrated. So that isn't the problem with orcs, where both green tide and tactical are great. But how I would feel if I were an orc player is what I'm saying.
What would you, just real quick, what's the one major thing you would change if you were going to nerf Ynnari and try to do it in the way that made it increased internal balance in a way that it was playable, that it was like still playable?
Yeah, there's a couple things. One of them is they need to limit who can do the soul burst move at the end of the end of the shooting phase. When you lose a unit, you get to move something at full movement speed. That unit that moves its full movement speed should not be allowed to battle focus for 2 inches farther, or D6+1 on a wave serpent. That's not okay. You shouldn't be allowed to soul burst a vehicle like the wave serpent. You shouldn't be allowed to soul burst after you come in from rapid ingress, and you shouldn't be allowed to heroic intervene after you soul burst. Those are those are the first 4 things that I think are wildly not okay.
So you think mostly correcting soul burst?
Oh yeah. Well, because the shooting back because you wounded my unit, you can play around that. That's not the end of the world.
And this is the lethal intent, right? Soul burst. Yeah. I know soul burst is what it used to be called back.
Yeah, sorry. The thing where you lose a unit and then you get to move, that shouldn't be on anything but infantry. You shouldn't be allowed to heroic intervene, and you shouldn't be allowed to do it after you rapid ingress. That's how I feel.
Right.
Because I don't think wave serpent should be allowed to do it. I think that is game breaking, and I'm surprised people aren't complaining about it.
What about wraithlords?
They already can't do it, right? Oh no, they can do it. You're right. They are Ynnari. They don't have battle focus. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They have battle focus in a different attachment.
I just want infantry to be the. I don't even want knights to have it. I think that knights going 16 at the end of someone's shooting phase is really gross.
I have a question. So Wraith Knights have the Wraith Knight with the sword has battle focus.
Good for him. I'm so proud of him.
Can the lethal intent affect the Wraith Knight? There's a note not Titanic.
No, I think it might say non-Titanic, but I don't have that memorized because how is that even remotely relevant?
Because I think that would be hilarious. You could kill one thing, and then a Wraith Knight who can ignore all terrain, shoots across the board.
I'm going to read Lethal Intent right now because now I'm curious. Okay, so that's the good. Is there other good from this week? There's hardly any news from this week.
I think the good thing, actually is just more follow on from the Nodaka, is that several tournaments extended their rules cutoff specifically to accommodate Wednesday, which means the really good thing is, in addition to the Nodaka thing separately, is that we are going to actually have a fresh view of what effectively is a new meta, because the meta has adjusted a little bit to DACA. and and now we'll be filling in a vacuum with DACA being missing. I mean, some people will be more interested in list experimentation, which we'll see in the next 2 to 3 weekends now because of this. So I think it's actually we also got some cool stuff in terms of like we got Lions, but Lions has mostly been foreshadowed. Released Lions for Custodies, they got overshadowed because of DACA. So we might actually see, and they get shot to crap by DACA. So they might actually see some really good results and placing now because they don't specifically have to contend with that, which is cool. We might see the Tau detachment do anything because DACA doesn't exist. So I think the good is that we're going to see hopefully some like innovation in the next couple weekends, which will be really cool.
Okay. I don't have bad, but I have ugly stuff that you could argue isn't bad. So, do you have? Let's do the ugly, and then you can tell me if I missed the bad. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds good.
The first ugly is DACA. Let me explain.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that we should be in a situation where we have to nerf something 2 weeks after it's written. I think that this is an ugly situation, and the reason I feel that way is that this is an army that math told you wasn't okay. One nerd who understands competitive 40K with a calculator is all GW needed to write an appropriate detachment in the first place. The minute Noah had seen it, he was telling me the math. Like, he didn't even get a calculator out. He started doing it in his head. They needed that incredibly hard to imagine feedback, right? Like someone looking at it and saying, maybe this shoots too hard. Like, I just, it's ugly. It is. It's ugly. It's not, it doesn't show any competence. And I actually don't love the speed at which we're getting new detachments because we're also getting codexes at the speed we've always gotten them at. And so people's complaint of there's too many rules and it's too hard to keep up is now going to be worse as we randomly pepper in all these other detachments. But I do want armies that are getting ignored codex-wise to get detachments. So it's kind of...
I think the detachment thing goes in bad for me in terms of like, I do think getting new detachments is important.
Sure.
I think it should be used explicitly or exclusively to, man, I can't use words correctly today, to address situations where an army has a singular play style because they haven't received a codex yet, or to address a missing play style that would create enjoyment, specifically in the narrative or non-competitive play. I think having competitive attachments is fine if it's a really mono play style that exists, right? So I don't think the DACA one was necessary because we had an orc shooting detachment. The reason they did the DACA detachment in the first place was because the orc shooting detachment currently exists is tagged to very specific characters and vehicles. They wanted an infantry focused one to give another dimension of play. They obviously did it wrong. The Tau detachment is also very similar, is they gave a different style of play. But the problem is all of these things didn't really land at, like, they didn't really correct anything in competitive play. And in both cases, they weren't really appropriate for competitive play in terms of one was like not really very good so far. The Tau one hasn't shown to be very good. And the DACA one was too good, but also neither of them really brought a lot to narrative either. So like, I feel like they missed the mark significantly. However, I think Lions was great because Lions reintroduced a style of play that doesn't currently exist in Custodies, which is right now the Custodies is everything works closely together, mutual support, or specifically vehicle spam. Those are like the things, right? So it's either like standard Custodies play, play close to your sisters models, or play vehicles. That's what exists currently in Stones. What we introduced was nodes of little golden warriors out on their own doing things different parts of the board and being self-contained like sticks of awesomeness alone in the wilderness. That is narrative awesome. It's totally in line with the books, and the detachment was good enough to see competitive experimentation and some decent play. I think that was excellent. The other two were a miss, and I think Lions and what's that? Drakari detachment, the Sky Splitter. think both of those are examples of how we should use attachments. I think the demons one is too, because their playstyle was messed up. They needed a correction. I think those are good examples. I think DACA and the Tau one are bad examples.
Yeah.
For two different reasons.
Well, no, I think that's really well put. I'm going to turn that into a short, I bet. I bet that, I mean, that was just really spot on. I agree with that entirely. I love Grotmas. I thought Grotmas was one of the only thing that is that level of fun for me in 40K that had happened before was when a new edition is coming out and we're getting new rules every day. Mm-hmm. Right? Like 8th edition, 9th edition, 10th edition. And like every day I'm waking up and they're like, by the way, we've completely changed Overwatch. I love that. Right? But Grotmas was so fun. That every day I woke up at some army, my friend's army, you know, I had people being like, I wonder when I am. And they're like trying to guess where they're going to be on the advent calendar of Grotmas detachments. Like, that was wonderful. The Eldar detachment was a joke and it was hilarious, but that was wonderful. But the other side of this is, and this is the thing I want to emphasize, you should go, Noah.
Yeah, I'm just, what was about, as soon as you finish your sentence, I was going to say, Ninja Smoke Bomb.
Yeah. I was just going to say that the only other thing that I would comment on there is that I really don't like brand new codexes getting new detachments, even if it fills in a playstyle that's missing. I understand that importance. I understand why that is a thing that should happen. My problem with it is that there are a lot of armies that don't have codexes yet. Like, I think that Drukhari is in a rough spot. They have 2 detachments, 3. They have 3 detachments now, I think. The book one, and then excuse me, the one that's about transports, and then they have the one that's about Drukhari and Harlequins fighting together, which is actually really neat. But I don't think I've seen it in tournament. So I think that you have armies like Drukhari that are like, man, we really need a book. We could use some help. Maybe they're not a great example because they have 3 already, but that's who came to mind, right? A lot of the other armies that I own have their codexes. I don't think anybody is waiting other than Drukhari. Tyranids, Genestealer Cult, Space Marines, Eldar, Harlequins, which are basically just Eldar now, which I don't like, by the way. Give them their own rules, please. Okay, now we have 30 minutes of just calling. Here we go. The first thing I'm going to talk about is WTC terrain. Let me grab the photo for this. So I've been playing in StatCheck. The wonderful people at StatCheck have a TTS league. And if you're not a StatCheck fan, check them out. Their TTS league is really cool because they're doing a team thing where you have a 5-man team and then you have 3 weeks to do the round. We're not doing particularly well as a team, and one of the things that's challenging us is WTC terrain. I live in, as we explained before, I live in what can only be described as GW land, right? And I have one more big ugly topic. I want to talk about tariffs in a completely non-political way, completely related to 40K, but I'm going to wait for Noah to come back to do that. So I've been playing on WTC terrain, which has been really, really fun. And I have a picture here for you guys of deploying on a WTC terrain that I think emphasizes how it's different from 40K. And because of my technical problems this morning, I don't have it loaded yet. Here it is. What's the fastest way to do this? Probably load it in. Just one moment, everyone. Normally I do this while Noah's talking. Okay, so when I complained about WTC terrain after my first game where I got manhandled by it, my friends who are WTC players said, well, the deal is that it's supposed to be volatile. It's supposed to be really bad for some armies. And I haven't done a team tournament where that is really the thing. A lot of the times in like 5-man tournaments, you'll have like a light table and like a heavy table, but there'll really be the terrain that you're kind of used to. I was pretty surprised when I saw this, when I saw just how much they mean by that. So what I've done is I've played another game on WTC with a crazy table. And so here's a picture of my deployment zone from that table. I have to hide me. There we go. Okay. Here's my deployment zone from that table. We're on hammer. Actually, no, we were actually on tipping point. Yes, tipping point. But nonetheless, this is crazy. Look at it. Look at the bottom left-hand corner. Look at the that area that I have to deploy. Imagine this table on hammer and anvil when I could be all the way up in that corner. I was able to screen with scorpions that could like immediately hide. I was able to hide my entire army other than that wave serpent, which you can't really kill. That wave serpent is positioned the very top of the screen, right in the middle, is where his tyrant is. So the wave serpent is deployed so that if Alex goes first and decides to kill me in shooting, which he probably won't do, the wave serpent jumps up to here. Now it's ready to go get the tyrant. If he doesn't go first and I go first, then the wave serpent does its d6 plus 1, and I've already measured that if it rolls a 3, I'm going to be within 6 inches of the tyrant. Now he's got reactive move because Alex is playing Vanguard, so he's going to be able to move away from that. So I have to factor for that. But an incredibly good setup. The other thing that I've set up here is these Wind Riders are able to jump out. So, and these Wind Riders are able to drive through here and jump out. And once these Wind Riders are here, look at how big their shooting lane is. They can shoot all through here. Anyone who's over here, they can shoot all this off this terrain, this objective entirely, through this gap into anything that's trying to hide here. A lot of people that are on this objective could be seen. If they're touching this terrain, you can see them. So it's incredibly dense, but then the middle of it is a literal shooting box. And I think that what I learned from this is as a melee heavy army that's fast, I think this is a table that I will actively look for. But I think it's a really good example of how different WTC terrain can be. Because if you're playing vehicle spam on this list and you're slow, how are you getting through the terrain in your deployment zone quick enough? So, excuse me, I'm going to blow my nose. I'm going to mute. So professional. So one of the things I'd point out on this particular map is that if you're playing vehicle spam, it could be hard to deploy in a way that's safe because of how heavily stacked the terrain is. And then you're going to have to drive through everything. So it's not going to be awful or a problem, but I think you're going to have to practice it and understand where the lines are. Because like the wave serpent can go here, he can go here, but on a lot of tables, like I don't know that he could fit through here because, all right, sorry, you can't see my mouse. I don't know that he could fit through the bottom gap that's between the wave the warp spiders and the piece of terrain there. So, anyways, I thought that this was super interesting, and I wanted to share it with y'all. Do you guys want to see Alex as part of the deployment? I feel like that could be really good too. Yeah, let's go look at that. I will grab that one for you guys as well. I wasn't expecting to show that one, but I think it's a really good other side of this. We're going to call this. This is Colin coming up with things to talk about. Here we go. Here we go. Let's go. Here we go. That's the song I sing at the table when it's go time. Here's Alex's. Oh, it's blurry. I didn't know that. But here's Alex's half of his deployment with his deployment line on. So there's the tyrant I was talking about. Now, Alex has set up something really interesting here. This tyrant can actually fall back 6 inches from my wave serpent flying in. What Alex is hoping is that by going out of melter range, his tyrant lives, and he then gets to pounce. This is Steelers over here on the far right. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting you can't see my mouse. Steelers on the far right. That's another man of Steelers that are another unit of Steelers that's up in the corner there. They've scouted forward. There's Raveners behind that, Zoes, which also can shoot my Wave Serpent or my Incarn, and then, of course, Gargoyles, and then it's Alex, so he's got a bunch of stuff in Deep Strike. So what I did on the first turn, actually, Alex went first, which I loved, and he came up and killed some of my infiltrators, and then I'm just so fast, I was able to completely pounce on him. And the Fire Dragons came up, and actually, he didn't move away 6, and then he was out of melter range, but I just shot him and killed him anyways because Fire Dragons. So this ended up being a very abusively aggressive game against Alex. And the reason why is that the Vanguard Tyranid list is playing a aggressive but also janky game that's based on mobility. And the problem is that the Ynnari are just more mobile than they are and hit incredibly hard. So one of the things that Alex and I talked about is it's completely valid for me to send all 3 units of Warp Spiders in on the first turn and just flame as much Tyranid as I can. Kill as many Stealers as I can, and then on his turn, Overwatch something nasty. He kills the Spiders, but now he's down so much that he can't play the game. I chose to try to keep the Spiders alive so they could play the mission late. I don't know that was right. I don't think it was. As the game went on, one of the things that Alex and I talked about is that I probably should have been trying to table him more aggressively. Because what happened is I pulled my foot off the gas a little bit near the end and he got a lot of points. Now, I won the game, but we're trying to practice for teams. So like the point delta matters a lot. And one of the problems I've identified in my gameplay is that I am not particularly good at turn 4 and 5 when I'm winning. Focus is a really hard thing for me there. If I'm losing, I can stop. I can think about it. I can kind of, I can kind of like connect in with the game and it'll be okay. I can plan it. I can do the thing I always try to do, which is take a minute of quiet. If you guys have never heard a show from me before, one of my big things is the big mistake that I make in 40K is moving things before thinking about it. It's my turn. I'm excited to play with my toys. I want to make sound effects. Vroom, vroom. Let's get rolling here. But that's not good. You should stop and you should think about the game state. What missions did you get? Where's your opponent at? What are they going to do to you next turn? What do you need to defend against? Have you screened enough for their deep strike? Like, there's lots of things to consider before you move anything. And if you start moving things, you can leave yourself in a really bad situation if you don't have a plan. When I'm winning, especially by a good amount, it's very hard for me to do that because I'm enjoying myself and I just want to talk to my opponent. I want to roll dice. I'm having fun. Like the competitiveness takes a notch down. And so I want to get better about that. Now, the other side of that is that Alex plays deliberate, purposeful, and technical on every turn, no matter how he's doing. So Alex and I have had games where he's had a very bad matchup on a bad terrain, which is what this is. Because Alex's skill is to play everybody close. You can feed Alex in a team event anybody you want, and he's going to get him a 9, 10, or 11. Perfect, right? That's not what I'm good at. So we were trying to focus on that. So I'm going to, over the next few weeks, I'm going to try to focus on that, and I'll see if I can bring some things back that are interesting for y'all about that kind of work on how does the end of the game go for me, right? Like, how does that, what's the best way to kind of keep my focus there? Okay. Now we're back to just B. I guess we can have B take up the whole screen, can't we? Yeah, that's all right. I keep slouching down. I've been standing the last few weeks. I think I'll go back to that. Okay, let's go back to my notes and we'll see what the next Colin is riffing topic is. Network update, we did that. Alex game, we did that. Better Human, Better Gamer tonight. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about who I am, where I came from. It was a windy, rainy day in Mississippi in 1975. None of that's true. I was trying to think of what to start to. It doesn't matter. I was going to quote a movie. It's what was going to happen there. I think it's going to be really interesting because what I've discovered is I have a tendency when I get stressed and anxious to play sloppy. And it's not because I'm trying to take advantage of anyone. It's because I am struggling. I have very bad anxiety and I have very bad ADHD. As I've gotten older, and especially with the changes to my lifestyle that COVID brought on, as I've gotten older, I found that my ADHD is much worse, and so is my anxiety, and they take a lot more effort to manage. And I love 40K. I love it a lot. It fills a kind of a wholesome need for me that I've needed a long time, that I didn't know I needed. Like, I started collecting board games when I was little. And then when I was probably in my 20s, I picked it back up and I collected kind of all the European games. the Steve Jacksons and the who's the guy that makes it? Oh man, I can't think of the guy's name that makes all the cool abstract puzzle games that I like so much. Anyways, he's got a lot of awards for great strategy board games. So what I liked about that was that instead of playing a video game for 4 hours, I had friends with me and we were having snacks and we were talking, and it was a much more social environment for me. That's why in-person gaming is better for me personally, is that I need the social, and if left to my own devices, I'll just not leave the house. There's everything I need to do is here. All of my chores, all of my tasks, my family, I'll just not go anywhere. So the social for me is a really big deal. What I didn't get from the board game club, I had a board game group. This is kind of a funny thing. I used Meetup in its early days when I had my first house to have a Meetup group that met at my house every Tuesday. And so there was like 70 board gamers in the group. And then like 20 of them would show up at Tuesday for 4 hours to play board games. It sounds great until you realize that you're inviting strangers with no like criteria for filtering them to your home. There was this one guy who had this really strange Russian accent. And I had spent time with people from the Soviet Union in the 90s when they came out for it doesn't matter. A bunch of Russians stayed with us at the time where it was the Soviet Union when I was young. And so I kind of had some understanding of what the accent sounds like. And so after a few sessions of me feeling comfortable, I asked him and he said, "Oh, it's not really my accent. It's just a thing that I do." Oh, how delightfully eccentric. Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah, so he did not come back again, but it wasn't because of that. It was because at my home playing board games, he kept taking his shoes and socks off. That's not okay. Your bare feet are not invited to my board game group. The good side is, though, that board game group, I made some of my closest friends in the world. So that was really cool. But what that group lacked is competitiveness. They wanted to win, but they didn't want to study, right? They didn't want to go online and find out the best ways to win. And they didn't want to try really, really hard against each other. That's fine. That's a vibe that exists. I'm cool with that. That isn't where I was at. Chuck Arnett, who did Biff Pod with me forever, articulates that his problem with playing narrative is that he doesn't understand the rules. Or his problem playing casual is he doesn't understand the rules. I've had this situation. So I was new to Age of Sigmar, and I made this. This is when I was first coming back to Warhammer, 2017. I bought Age of Sigmar. 8th edition 40K wasn't out, and 7th edition I watched a battle stream of it, a battle report of it, and I was like, well, that looks absolutely terrible. I have no interest in playing that. So I bought Age of Sigmar and played it with my kids and a small group of friends. And I went to the local game store, and there was a guy there, and he wanted to play, and he seemed like a nice guy, so I agreed to play him. And I had a death army that was running at his army of demons. And at that time in Age of Sigmar, your pink horrors could split into blues and then into brimstones for free. You just paid the points for the pinks, and then they just split out, and they automatically split out. And he fielded a gazillion of them, and they just filled up the entire table and beat me. 2 weeks later, there was an article about how that needed to get nerfed because it was winning tournaments and it was too broken and blah, 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 blah. So I made this fun, fluffy, everything's happy-go-lucky list. Not really. I made this list where I was trying to win with my brand new thing. And I was trying to win with my brand new thing, and I could not. It was a terrible experience because I didn't understand the level of competitiveness we were bringing. Let me give you a better example. Every game store has the guy who just wants to beat you and has no problem beating people that didn't bring the deadly, most brutal list. So one of the things I like about competitive is that my friends know that I'm going to bring the grossest thing possible. If we're all doing that, then we're all playing at a similar level. If that isn't the case, and we say, hey, my list isn't able, my favorite army isn't able to do that right now, I'm going to bring something that's like A tier. Then I actually talk to my friend about the matchup they're going to bring, and we put effort into seeing if it's going to be meaningful, because I don't want my friend to drive an hour or whatever to come play 40K with me, only to have a bad experience for either of us. Hi, morning, Jordan. We are back. I have 3 shows a week right now: Mondays, Wednesday mornings, and then this week Wednesday evening. So you can find all that out. There's a channel trailer that's 3 minutes long that you can watch. That will tell you all about all that. Noah had to drop for an interview at 7:30, and we'll be back at 8 o'clock. So we have 13 more minutes of Colin riffing without Noah, which has been pretty fun for me so far. I don't know if anybody else is getting anything out of it. So I learned this, that I have anxiety and I have depression, or ADHD. I might have depression as well. It comes with the other ones. It's kind of those 3 things kind of hang out together, and it's not always clear which one brought the other 2 to the party. So I've learned a lot about me over the past few years, and I feel like I'm a much better Colin than I was before. I'm still struggling, but I feel like my understanding of Colin is much better than it was before. And so after that game that I played at that tournament where I had cheated, and I put the quotes out for those that can't see my hands, where I had made sloppy rules mistakes in the final game on stream, and maybe won because of it. I can't speak to that. I don't know. But I won a tournament, and then immediately what happened is Discord unloaded on me about cheating. And some people, there was a quote where someone said, Colin's a known 40K cheater. Now, I'm not. I don't have a reputation for cheating, but there is a crew of people in the Pacific Northwest that do think I have that reputation. And that was hard to hear, because I've always prided myself on sportsmanship, even when I was being anxious, even when I was really trying to win. And I can be overly competitive. I get that. So I had to think a lot about it, about what that meant, and if I wanted to fix it. Now, another thing I've seen as I've gotten older is that anxiety also stops me from doing the best thing in the best situation. I'm extremely good with words. When I misspeak, at a time that is really important that I don't misspeak, very frustrating for me, and becoming a problem where I get older and anxiety overrules the part of my brain that controls that kind of the pattern of me speaking. I love speaking, as you guys know. I used to do public speaking. I used to sing professionally. I've done the thing. So I've had this experience where I get called a cheater. I get associated with some other pretty big time cheaters that are banned from the game. That felt bad. And so it's my first tournament back, and I literally don't know how to respond to this, how to react to this. So I talk to Noah and my other friends. And what I find out is there's a crew of people that are still upset with me from like 2017, 18, and 19. I didn't cheat at those times, but they're upset at the level of competitive I was, how many things I won, what I was like to play at the table. And you know what? Some of that's completely valid. So what I've realized is that no matter what I'm doing next in my life, I've got to get my anxiety and my ADHD under control. And one of the biggest problems in my life I've had for my entire life is being in the moment. My brain is active. Even right now, I'm thinking about 4 other things beyond this, the talking to you guys and doing the show. There's 10 minutes until Noah gets back. After this topic, there's going to be 6. Like, that's what I'm thinking about. In addition to that, my wife just left for work early and gave me a chore to do that I'm worried I'm going to forget to do. I have a lot to do today. I'm thinking about that as well. So my brain isn't here right now, but I'm still here and I'm doing the show and I am enjoying myself. I am not enjoying myself as much as I would be if I could take a moment and breathe and acknowledge that this is really fun. And for the next 40 minutes, this is all I need to pay attention to. So in order to be the best me at gaming, at my career, at everything, I need to solve these problems. Additionally, I have a problem where I know that things are awesome and know that they need to be done and know that they'll bring great value to my life, but I don't do them. And so the other thing that came up for me is I've always wanted to make 40K content full time. I tried doing it with Best of Tabletop before, but I was also working full time, and I offloaded it to a whole bunch of different people, and then we didn't all work together enough, and I didn't drive it enough. It was really me that made it fall apart. I didn't do enough. I didn't drive enough. So this time around, I'm doing almost all the work. I'm doing like 80% of it, 90% of it. That's been great, and it gives me the opportunity to prove to myself that even when nobody else is watching, I can wake up and say, this is the thing that has to happen today, and I'm going to do it. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I want to make 40K content. Now, can I do it professionally? I have no idea. I figured out what the math looks like, and it's way more successful than I've been before. Is that possible? Maybe, right? I'm doing things that are different. We're doing an RPG show. We're doing a show that's about human development, that's going to involve mental health professionals and competitive gamers from other things. I really want to interview the guy that wrote Play to Win, the book about Street Fighter 2 competition, because that's like my Bible for what I've talked about on BiffPod all these years. So I love doing this. I love presenting. I love playing 40K. I love being part of the community. I love doing Charity Hammer. I love all of this. And I need to take the next step in Colin's evolution. And I think I can do that through this project. And that's really exciting to me. It really, really is. And so I'm excited to share that. And if you want to hear more about that and what the real cheating thing was and how it turned out and all the drama, that's all going to be 7:00 p.m. tonight, joined by JT McDowell and Danny McDevitt and hopefully Chuck Arnett. We're going to talk through what cheating is, what sloppy play is like at high level tables, anxiety, and we're going to talk about all of it. And we're going to dive in, and I'm going to talk about where it's going to go from here. So I'm really, really excited about this evolution for me and this chance to prove to myself that there is that I have this gear, that I can do the thing that I wanted to do forever. When I was young, and it were 3 minutes, I said there's one more minute of this topic. I told you my brain was keeping track. There's 2 more things I'll share about this. One is that I am a storyteller. I've done creative writing my whole life. I've written books. I've written stories. I've blogged a lot. And for when I worked in software, I wrote all the time. I did lots of marketing pitches. I created presentations. If you've ever hung out with me, you know that I tell stories all the time. My father's an incredible storyteller. He's actually a priest. So storytelling is kind of a core part of that. I grew up in the Episcopal Church, for those that know what that is. My mom's a pretty good storyteller. However, she stops at the beginning of the story to make sure that you know exactly what time, when it was, like to the month and year. So she'll be like, now, was it March or April of 1967? And I'll say, Mom, I don't have a great deal of context for how those months are different from each other, but she'll still stop. And my favorite thing is she'll try to figure out other things to give her context. Like, now, was I wearing a sweater? Because if I was wearing a sweater, it was chilly. I love my mom. She's an incredible lady, but my brother as well. My brother is not as social as I am. He doesn't want to spend as much time with people, but when you get my brother telling stories, he's incredible. So when I thought about the things that I'm passionate about, I love competing. I love making content. I love the strategy. I love the community, and I really love storytelling. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to tell some stories. I'm going to make some content. I'm going to make a show that's funny and it's an RPG. And I'm going to make a show each week that doesn't talk about lists and doesn't talk about who won what tournament, but instead talks about core concepts to make you a better player in 40K. Last week, we talked about MCP and Kill Team and how they help me be better at understanding value and risk management in 40K. And this week, in about 5 minutes, Noah's going to talk about building lists and list archetypes and how they factor into each other. So, and then the third show is Better Human, Better Gamer, which is a quest. My quest is that I'm going to win a 100-person 40K tournament while giving my opponents the best possible sportsmanship experience I can and enjoying myself. I need to relax and enjoy the moment. Playing at the top level against a really good player at a tournament to try to win it is an incredible experience. It's exciting. Everyone in the room is aware of you. Not everyone. A lot of people in the room are aware of you. People are stopping by to see how it goes. It's how it's going. Your opponent and you are trying so hard. It's great. It's great. I just want to stop and enjoy it. Okay. Let's talk about Colin's new army. I have to take a 30-second break, guys, for my allergies, and I'll be right back. This is actually why I can't do a one-man show. Some mornings my allergies are just so bad that I need someone else to talk while I mute and blow my nose, but I'm the only one here. So thank you for your patience on that. And no, I'm not going to go edit that out of the podcast. Okay, Colin's New Army. Playing a lot of Eldar. Playing a lot of TTS. Some of my friends want to play Eldar on TTS. I'm tired of the Eldar mirror. Here's Colin's analysis of the Eldar mirror after 12 or 13 or 14 Eldar matchups. The person who wins the mirror is not the person that goes first. The person that wins the mirror is not necessarily the person who's playing Ynnari. However, it helps a ton. Ynnari is better than the other detachments in the mirror, in my opinion. And more than that, whose list is built more for anti-Eldar is a big deal. I take a lot of Warp Spiders, I take a lot of Howling Banshees, and I take a lot of Wind Riders. All of those things are incredible at killing Eldar. You know what else is good at killing Eldar? Striking Scorpions. I have a bunch of those as well. Really fast fire dragons that can open up wave serpents. They're good against Eldar. So Eldar is good against itself, and if you're built for it, you're going to win the mirror. That's what I've seen so far. And I've built for the mirror because it's really great, and competitively people are playing it. Okay? So I need to play something else. And I'm not excited. Okay, so here's the armies I own. And I'll go through it very quickly. I don't own the right models to play Tyranids. I'd love to, but I don't own Raveners. However, the new Raveners, oh my God, I want them so bad, but financially that's not going to be real right now. I also don't have Lictors for some reason. It's a long story. So I could play a Vanguard list. I have a lot of it, but I don't have everything, and I don't want to put a bunch of hobby in. I don't love the Genestealer Cult list. I like Biosanctic and how it plays, but it's not really for me. And then Drukhari doesn't have anything that's interesting to me. I have Space Marines, but I just played a lot of Space Marines previously. Gladius. I played a bunch of Librarius Conclave. I played a bunch of Death Watch. So I played a lot of Marines lately. And I think that for me, learning new armies is a core part of how I get better at 40K. Because that's how I learn nuance and mechanics, right? I need to see it differently. When I left competitive Tyranids and Eldar and I played Tal for like 3 or 4 tournaments, that was incredibly helpful because I learned how to play this mobile but stationary castle that did not want to get charged and cared a lot about Overwatch. And it had to be, you had to plan your deployment you had to plan your game from the start. You had to deploy your army with all of the game's strategy in mind, which I'd always played stuff that was so fast it didn't care about that. So I want to play a new army, and it's going to be, and I'm going to start with it on TTS. And so I don't need to have the models, which is very freeing, right? So I'm going to pick an army, and I'm going to decide that I'm going to learn it. And then I'm going to engage experts in the 40K community, and I'm going to play against them with it. And I'm going to learn how to play the army, and hopefully people will learn with me, and it'll be fun for them. I'll do some screen games. I'll do probably some shortened battle reports, and we'll kind of just dive in. So what army is Colin going to play? And I'm hoping that Noah comes back on time, but if his interview runs long, that's more important than we are. So I went to 6 of my very favorite competitive 40K players who play at a very high level. I think that 5 of them are on WTC teams, just to give you an idea of the sort of level I asked. 4 of them responded. That is what it is. It started with Tyler Bortel. Let's see, I got answers from Tyler, Alex McDougall, Noah, and somebody who actually didn't want me to say their name, which is weird. So I have 4 options because they picked 4 options for me. So we're going to talk about the options, and then people are going to leave notes in the comments about what they want to see. The first option is from Noah, and I'm going to read you guys what Noah said because it's interesting. So I asked, Mr. Dude, that's how I speak. I would like a little bit of help. Should be easy. I'm going to teach myself a new faction attachment as a way to grow my 40K skills. Since I use TTS so much now, there isn't a faction restriction. Some of my friends suggested that I let the listeners of my show decide. I don't have enough of those yet. I don't. That's fine. I am asking 6 of my top 40K comp friends to answer the following question. If you could pick a faction detachment for Colin to learn, what would it be and why? Only restriction is that it's something I don't already play. So Noah said, interesting, my vote is Admech. Here's why. My second was Stodes. His reasons were not chaos. I don't actually like chaos rule sets that much. I don't own any chaos, so that's part of it. You have lots of exposure to most of the number two. You have lots of exposure to most of the other Xenos. Yeah, I do. I've played against. I know all the elves. I've played against orcs a ton. I know Tau okay. I haven't played against Tau a lot, but we've got Donald Plummer here in our meta, and he's incredible. I've played him enough times to understand roughly what Tau does, but we don't have a ton of Tau here. So yeah, and I've played against Votann quite a bit. I guess they're not really Xenos. Sorry, dwarves. So yeah, that's interesting. And then his third reason is that Votann are very linear. Yeah, I wouldn't play Votann. I have played Votann 3 times recently in tournament. Supposedly those 3 lists were different. I can't tell you how they're different. Votann just seems very one note to me, and I don't love how it plays. So sorry, Votann fans. I know that it's good right now. Like the list that it has is perfectly competent. It's just not for me. So what he's saying is that AdMech is great because it's that design space isn't getting paid a lot of attention to. It's got complex layered rules and more than one viable detachment build. Those are all great. Those are all great reasons. So that was the first one. So if you think I should play AdMech, you should start commenting now that AdMech's the jam. Then I talked to Tyler Bortel. For those that don't know Tyler, he is a I'm going to take some credit here that's cocky and I don't mind. Tyler is known by the competitive 40K scene because of Charity Hammer, sort of. Tyler, Lucas, and Naj are 3 of the best players in the Pacific Northwest. I asked them to create Best in Faction: The Next Generation when our show Best in Faction got to a certain age and was ready to be old. We weren't doing the things we had done before, and they were, so they kind of took over the vibe of what we had been doing, and we evolved to a different show. They made an incredible show. They're fantastic humans, and I love them, each of them, so very much. So Tyler's in Spain now, not forever. And so sometimes we chat, but he's very WTC focused. So it's kind of fun. He's like, JW Train is dead to him, much like how I don't play on WTC Train. He doesn't play on GW Train. And Tyler said, you should play Necrons, specifically Awakened Dynasty. Now, this is funny, and I'll tell you why. Because in the 8th team event that I just captained, that we just practiced for, we couldn't figure out what Chuck should play. Chuck's main things he likes to play are Votann. This is not in order. Orcs, Chaos, Votann. Those are the things Chuck likes to play. He'd rather play Chaos Demons than Marines. He doesn't typically like CSM. So we wanted to have both Josh on Tyranids and Alex on GSC. So that takes Tyranids out of the thing. We wanted Noah on the most off-meta thing that people wouldn't expect we could come up with, which is Green Tide, which he's incredible at. So that took Demons and Orcs away from Chuck. He looked at Votann. He played some games with Votann. He didn't love it. He played some games with Death Guard. It wasn't for him. Later, he said, I actually should have played Death Guard, but Death Guard wasn't for him. He has Necrons. He tried Necrons. He really likes the Awakened Dynasty because of the super strong characters that pop back up, which is really neat. He played double Warrior Brick and then single Warrior Brick. And Liam Bath was here for an event. He plays Necrons at a very high level in Canada. And he plays it without the Warrior Brick. So I kind of listened to him talk about it. And then I spent a week doing pairings prep for Awakened Dynasty. And then after I spent a week preparing for it, I promptly paired it for a weekend and watched how it performed. I feel like I know a lot about this list. I don't like it. I will play it if that's what you guys want to see. I'll probably play the non-warrior version at first to see how it does. Because to me, the warrior version is literally saying, are you able to kill this? And because I just played in the team event, I know exactly what deals with it. Like I have the list. I know what its bad matchups are. There's lots of things that just like Mordaka, even nerfed, probably is just like, oh, that warrior unit's cute. I'm just going to shoot it off the table. So that's my second option. And I know that I'm not being unbiased on this. I will do whatever you guys want me to do. I'm just explaining the problem with that specific example. The third one is from Anthony Vanilla, Mr. Violence himself. I gave him the nickname Violence just so everybody knows I'm taking credit. He'll tell you it's true. But Violence is an old friend of mine. I haven't, it's sad. When I left 40K, he and I kind of stopped talking. And when I went to message him 2 days ago, I hadn't talked to him since middle of 2013. Do you guys have that in Discord where you go to a friend? It was really heartbreaking. I'm like, man, I should not be this bad of a friend. So we chatted, and I gave him the question, and he said, Colin, I haven't really been playing against you. I don't know where you're at. And I said, okay, I like Jenkins speed. What should I play? And Anthony's immediate response that will surprise literally no one is that New Emperor's Children, this is what he said, New Emperor's Children is the most fun you can have in 40K right now with your pants on. That's what he said. Okay, Noah's all in on Emperor's Children. He's very excited about them. So we'll hear what Noah has to say about that, but that was the third option. The fourth option was from Alex McDougall. And I'm going to be honest, I don't remember what Alex said. He suggested two different things. First, he said, what about Vanguard Marines? He said, you've never played it. It's very janky. He's right. It is very janky. It is, but the thing is I've played a crap ton of Marines, so I kind of am vetoing it out of the list. The reality of the situation is that Vanguard Marines have exactly one unit in it that I haven't played with a lot, and that's the Centurion unit. It goes uppy downy when you need to kill vehicles. It's not hard for me to figure out. So I don't think that's a great option. If people are super excited about it, which I don't think they will be because it's older now, I'll play it. But that's where that's at. So then he said, oh, okay, well, in that case, I think you should play the New Tzeentch detachment. Also a funny choice. When the New Tzeentch detachment came out, Chuck played it into me a bunch. And what we discovered is that the data sheets are not very good. Now, I know the data sheets have been buffed, so maybe that's better, but that is the fourth option. So now I'm going to give this an incredibly quick, rapid succession to Noah so he can tell me his opinion. Here we go. This is what army is Colin going to play through TTS originally, and then maybe borrow him or their armies for a tournament to help him be a better player. Noah said Custodes or AdMech. Tyler Bortel said Awakened Dynasty Necrons. I explained that we just spent 1 million hours talking about that for teams, and that I know what beats it and what doesn't. Then Alex McDougall said Vanguard Marines. I said, no, I've been playing a ton of Marines. It's literally the same thing. And so then he said, how about Tzeentch Demons? And Anthony Vanilla said, I said, what about, I like speed and I like jank. And he said, well, Emperor's Children is the most fun in 40K you can have with your pants on right now.
Yeah.
So which of those do you want to see Colin? You said Custodes and AdMech. Which of those, now that you've heard the options, which of those do you want to see Colin play?
It's AdMech or EC for me. So the reason why is EC has so EC is the most fun, right? It is incredibly fast. It has a ton of tools that you don't expect it to have. It does things it should not do, but isn't overly busted to the point where your opponent doesn't get to play the game or interact. You can definitely lose with EC, right? It's very fragile. There's a very small number of units that are effective. Like the core of your army is 5 battle line units and like 6 characters. That's it. Everything else is duct tape. Like 3 of those battle line units are literally your heavy melee lifting, right? 3 5-man guys with a character each. That's the big scary stuff. So I think it's amazing. It's super fast. It's really cool. It's got some list design space outside. Like it's got like 3 or 4 detachments you can actually design in. That'll be fun. I think it's great. I think AdMech has a higher potential for performance, as we've seen, where we've seen really good players pick it up and go do really good things. Like, for instance, Siegler made top 8 at the World Championships with AdMech, right? So it definitely has the opportunity for high player skill expression. One of the reasons I think that AdMech holds people back is that the level of complexity with the rules requires a really good player to get all of the energy out of, and it's a good teams thing if the player understands how to do it correctly. Thing is, a lot of the rules are complex, and layered and dependent. So it would come down to, is my battle line in the right place? Did I pick the correct thing? All of these little tiny pieces.
I
But
will
if they
say
all
that
come together,
that sounds helpful for me, and also like I won't enjoy it. So that's great. Okay, so guys,
I think you will enjoy it when you do it right, and your opponent, and you suddenly have like these 9 things that came together that just lasered your opponent, and you're like, yes, because I think that makes Colin feel good when he does the "I'm smarter than you."
that's fair. You're not wrong. Okay, so I think Noah's right. Those are really the 2 choices. So leave in the comments, do you want to see AdMech or do you want to see EC? Because I'm going to make content about whichever one you pick. We're going to pretend, Noah, that they're going to pick AdMech.
Both of these armies are armies I have on my shelf right now. So you can play these in person if you want to.
Yep, that's great. Okay, we have 18 minutes for you to do your presentation.
Let's go.
Let's go!
Hey! Okay. So we're going to talk about army qualities and army
real
types.
Quick, hit the right arrow button and see if you're able to tile the slides or if I have to do it.
Oh.
No?
No,
okay.
Not me.
Just tell me next slide when you're ready. Go ahead.
Okay. So we've heard about army types. We're going to talk about something called army qualities, and we're going to talk about how this influences how I think about list design. Next slide. Okay. So types. Army type is what you commonly hear people talk about. You say it's a melee army. It's a shooting army. It's a stat check army like knights. We'll talk about these different types in a bit. Types tend to be a very simplified description. And types are important, but it's a very simplified description of what the army is good at. It is a good shooting army. Now, Space Marine army that's good, that is a shooting Space Marine army, probably still has a couple melee elements. Marneus Calgar may in fact exist in the army, and therefore it does have melee elements, but its primary focus is shooting. It also, all these types, if you think about it, focus specifically on how it deals with either killing the opponent or being killed by the opponent. So stat check, hey, you can't kill me, or maybe I've got a very specific damage profile that you have to deal with. Melee armies are about how I kill you in melee. Shooting armies about how I kill you in shooting. Combined army are I'm kind of medium at killing you in everything, right? Mm-hmm. So very focused on like how I interact with my opponent, not necessarily how I interact with the function of the game or the mechanics of the game. And then it doesn't actually describe all the little elements of how the thing plays. So a melee army might also be focused on board control, or focused on pressure, or focused on surgical strikes that remove specific elements from their opponent, like EC does. Like there's a bunch of different ways. A melee army could be, it could be like Stormlance Marines. It could be Vanguard Tyranids. It could be Bully Boys Orcs. These are 3 very different playing armies that do things completely differently, that are all still melee armies. So saying it's a melee army doesn't really describe it in a way that helps you better understand what it does or understand how you should even build it. And then qualities are, one army can have multiple qualities. So these are things about the army that make it do what it do. Think of it as like a pie with percentages. Say we're a melee army, we might be 10% this quality, 30% this quality, 40% this quality, whatever percent this other quality. Qualities describe how the army actually wins the game and how it interacts. So the qualities will describe not just how I kill my opponent, but how I influence the state of the game in a way that plays into my overall conditions for winning. And then qualities can be built into armies via list design and unit selection. That's just like the qualities you want are dependent on the things you select, not just the general thing you're trying to attempt to do. It's important too that I didn't put this on a slide, but I'll mention that qualities I think are far more important when we're talking about teams and specific matchups. Because if you're playing, let's say, an anti-melee army, and you see your opponent and say, well, that opponent has a melee army, that sure, you might be an anti-melee army, but does your anti-melee actually affect the way in which they do melee?
Do they have first strike?
Right. Do they have first strike?
That's a perfect question.
Or are they an army that gets into combat via alternative means, right? Are they an army that has a 6-inch pile-in
They
so that
blood
they
surge, yeah.
charge something else, and again, or do they blood surge in, or
Yep.
there's a variety of things, right? Okay, so next slide.
I want to just comment that to me is one of the qualities of like Eldar, or is a quality that you can have a lot of infiltration. Is that a quality?
Board control. That's what I would call board control.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
So army types, right? We talked about melee, shooting, stat check, combined arms. Okay, next.
You just explained those. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, qualities. So these are the 4 qualities. I think there can be more. These are the 4 that I think about. I think there could be more, right? Pressure. So pressure is the quality in which that I'm trying to close rapidly with my opponent and take away their space, right? Get into the space they're currently occupying in order to limit their options and reduce the things that they potentially do, and then deny them the ability to establish board control. That's a pressure army usually, right? What it usually means is pressure dictates that my opponent is going to make hopefully seeding decisions early in the game. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, against world leaders, because they have the ability to present pressure, a lot of people will deploy further back off the line, therefore seeding the table. Mm-hmm. Board control, it also dictates where their infiltrators might go, as we talked about, because since I have specific pressure record that you may present your infiltrators in a way that is sacrificial, prevent me from taking that space, right? It dictates how I play. Board control is kind of the opposite, where pressure is dictating how your opponent plays. Board control is removing the options for play that exist in the areas you're in. So for instance, like board control could be taking up so much space that they can't deep strike or get in anywhere. Board control can also be having a bunch of 12-inch deep strike bubbles.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I think that for each of these, we should give some examples of armies that do that well before you move on to the next one, because if we do all 4 of them and then do that, I think it'll be more confusing. So
yeah, okay, cool.
Can we step back to pressure? When I think of pressure, let me do it. When I think of pressure, I think of why it is turn 2. Why am I in my deployment zone? That's right. That's what I think of, right? Like, why are people holding me here? I don't like it. I do that with Eldar. You can absolutely do that with Eldar. You start striking scorpions and maybe some banshees into their deployment zone. You wrap up some transports, you hold some things, and then you stand on some objectives. And you spend that turn with them dealing with the stuff that's closest to them and hopefully not getting into the things on the objectives, because Eldar doesn't have durable things to actually, like, hold an objective. Another army that seems that is pressure is world eaters.
Yep, right? EC2.
Yep, just going to run right at you. It's going to suck. Hope you can kill them in time. Blood Angels often play that way. Who do you think?
Warhorde. Warhorde is definitely a pressure army, right? I think the key thing for pressure versus like board control is like pressure tends to have models, a model count that goes away, right? Because they end up sacrificing their model count to create pressure. Whereas when we switch over to board control tends to kind of rely on keeping their model count for longer to take up space on the board to deny options in a different way.
Yeah, like you can play Eldar as a board control army, but it's really more of a pressure army because everything's fragile and eventually you don't have things left.
Right. If you're playing in specific matchups, and sometimes qualities are style, right? But like, they're not style, but like playing it slightly differently. But like, for instance, Green Tide is a pressure army, or not pressure army, is a board control army, because at least how I play it, we don't have the tools to throw us at you early and do that. Sometimes the hands are forced, but overall, what I like to do is take up the board and slowly take away your options to operate in the board to the point where you have to play the whole game on your side of the table while I've maintained my model count for as long as possible. Right. Other board control armies, which may seem weird, is like Guard very often can be a board control army because they're not trying to shove themselves in your face. They have a shooting capability where they take up little bits of ground at a time, don't see that ground, and then when you take that ground, they kill the crap out of you for ever extending into that space, right? And they tend to have large, powerful things that can hold back areas while shooting the crap out of you at distance, right? Knights are also a board control army because they have such large real estate they individually take up that it's very easy for them to say, you can't be in this, I can screen you out of this whole area, and if you're in any of these areas, you have to interact with a 40-foot tall monster
Sure.
with a fist the size of a bus.
Yeah. Nurgle Demons
Nurgle Demons is
is a great
a
example
great
of a board
example.
control army. Death Guard as well.
Death Guard is definitely a board control army. They lack the ability to provide create pressure usually,
Yep.
but the closer you get to them, the worse you play the game.
Yep.
Efficiency armies are armies that are about pushing the quality of performance of units to a level that is highly effective at killing or not being killed. So this might be because your stat block is really good. That example of that is like Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights, basically the whole army hits on 2s all the time in the current builds. So they're an efficiency army because they're usually built as an efficiency army because they just are so consistent. Other efficiency armies are armies like, a lot of the time, Marines is an efficiency army, specifically Ironstorm, because they layer things like double oath at +1 to wound and then shoot you until you stop moving. What are other efficiency armies you can think of, Colin?
Eldar.
Eldar is, yeah. That's part of its pie, right? It's highly efficient. Fire Dragon shoots, something dies.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but just in general, if you can play Eldar as a hammer that carefully carves apart your opponent and doesn't do pressure and doesn't hold the table. That's the way you can play Eldar if you want.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a little bit.
Example of this is a list called Ultra Memes that doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, I know what you speak of.
In my video that I made yesterday, the 3-minute video that's the trailer for the channel that people should watch, in there I include some pictures of some of my favorite armies, and that one is titled "The Least Minutes of 40K Played at a 40K Tournament." Okay. Because I took this Ultra Memes list, was this thing that John Lennon made that was just math and efficiency. All it was. And it was fast, and it could start in the middle of the table in some degree. And if you went second against it, you probably were dead. And it was designed to kill Eldar, and Sisters, the two things that were really scary at the time. And I took it to a tournament, and I tabled all 5 opponents, and no one made it to turn 3. That army, that's not true. I think my final opponent, which was Custodes, I think he might have played the whole game. But the army was just, all it was math. So all you had to be good at was understand efficiency of math and where to point.
Yeah.
So I'm really good at that. That's a strength I have because of my brain likes numbers. And so I can say, I've got 11 things that need to shoot. I'm going to move them to exactly the overlapping fields of fire for redundancy that I need. And then I'm going to shoot you apart. That's a skill that I have I play those armies well, but I personally would rather have a lot of close combat. So
armies whose pie tends to be entirely efficiency, especially if that efficiency is shooting, tend to make the game toxic. So Proviathan, Daka, Ultra Memes. Now, when that
Ironstorm for a long time.
Ironstorm, when that efficiency is more on melee, it tends to be less so because melee requires closing and a bunch of other stuff. It's better when that efficiency isn't the entire pie and it's more like, half or 3/4 of the pie. And then there are things like pressure or board control or whatever built in. And then the last is capability, which is probably the one I'm going to talk about a little the most but capability is the ability to interact with the game in a way that it's not normally able to be interacted with or do things that you normally can't do. One of the examples was when I first started getting really good at 40K, I was making a lot of success with Knights when they weren't doing very well. And there was one build of Knights that everyone liked. I wasn't playing that build. I was playing a very different build. The build I was playing specifically hinged on the fact that there was a sub-faction you could select that could advance and shoot with everything. And it was right when they changed terrain types. And so what it meant is that because that Knight army could advance and shoot, I had a high likelihood of being able to get lines of sight on people in their deployment zones and around all the blocking terrain that everyone else was struggling to deal with because advance and shoot was relatively rare in the meta at the time. So by pivoting over to basically a whole bit, they're like, are you hard to kill? Nope. I'm much easier than all the Knights to kill. Are you good at killing? Nope. I'm way less good at killing you than all the other Knights armies. Okay, cool. But I'm going to get there faster. And my theory is that Knights was an efficiency army already because they were a army with a lot of shots, high quality shots, could do a lot of things. They were hard to kill. They were already efficient enough. And instead of building for efficiency, I was building for capability. And this is kind of the core thing, is that I think one of the problems with 40K, with people playing 40K, is that we find something and we try to push it all the way to its extreme level, right? And there's not a level that we think is like good enough. So for instance, like I think you see this in the best players, they build lists that they get to the good enough, and then they tech into other things to give them outs, right? So like, for instance, a lot of people play Knights lists now, trying to max efficiency with the maximum number of dogs, no demons. I like a little bit of demons still on the list because it gives me infiltrate, and I think infiltrate is very important.
Yep.
I think one army that is a capability army above all other things is actually Eldar. Eldar has a bunch of, and one of the reasons Ynnari is so good, has a bunch of ways that interact with the game that no one else can interact with the game quite as well or in that way, and they get to ignore, a third of the rules of 40K. That's why EC is good. EC is a capabilities army because EC gets to advance and shoot, gets to fall back and shoot, gets to advance and charge, gets to fall back and charge. They have conditions, but as long as you're a good player who can identify those conditions, they get to ignore most of the rules of the game. And so how these qualities should direct your list building is looking at, one, what the actual way you're trying to win the game is. And so then building towards things that allow you to do that specific strategy with these qualities, mapping these qualities to your type. Am I a melee army? So I'm a melee army. Am I a melee pressure, melee board control? Am I melee pressure efficiency? Am I melee capability because I can fall back? I'm not that efficient at shooting, but I can always charge every time I want to. I can always fall back and charge. Thinking about those actual qualities that make up your list, or the qualities you currently lack, and finding ways to build those qualities in, specifically sometimes as counters to existing things. For instance, DACA was easily countered if you could close and get in contact with the models after popping transports, or get into combat with them after they got out without exposing yourself. That's obviously not easy. There are some armies that can do it. Ynnari is having a very high win rate in the last 2 weeks against DACA, specifically because of that.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. What's your thoughts, Colin?
I think that it's really good for people to think about this in regards to what they're good at. There's no one right way to win 40K on this tile. Noah likes some of these better than the others.
I like board control.
And you like capability as well.
I do. I'm
more
less
than
efficiency,
you like
less
efficiency
pressure.
and pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I like pressure. I like pressure because I like to say to you, you have to react to me. You don't get to play your game plan. I love saying that at 40K. People don't like it. It's frustrating. I don't actually say it. I'm saying it metaphorically in the game. But I
hey,
think
asshole.
Yeah, right. You don't get to play 40K. I really like that because I'm not going to ever be better than other people at the rules. I'm never going to be better than other people at close combat. There are just nuanced things that I just don't have the attention span for. I will, though, beat you weird. And so
Okay.
I am perfectly happy to bring the weird thing. As far as I know, I'm the only NRA player playing with double Wind Rider. That makes literally no sense to me, but I'm going to keep doing it. Why? Because all of the matchups that Ynnari don't like are terrified of Wind Riders. That's why. So it is about building for how you want to play 40K, because I don't like board control. Here's what I don't like about board control. If part of my strategy is that I have to roll armor saves and succeed at them, I hate that.
That's fair.
I
that
hate
is
it
one
so
way
bad.
that board control is
I
done.
play Dark Angels, where your whole game is Deathwing Knights living. And eventually someone's going to shoot 30 bolters at them, and you're going to roll 9 ones. Like, that's just going to happen. And people are going to be like, well, the math is that that's never going to happen again. Well, it already happened before, and it's going to happen again, I promise you.
It's going to happen again.
Yeah, so I think that it's important to decide what you're good at. Chuck really likes board control. It's a great example.
I know he does. It's
I
one of the
like
reasons we get along.
efficiency, I like pressure, and I like capability. I like all 3 of the other ones, and I'd like them all to be in the same list. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at on it. I want all the weird tools. I want to tell you that you have to react to me, and I want to pick you apart efficiently.
I mean,
My
that you
favorite
just
thing,
described Unari. You just
yeah,
described Unari.
I did. I just love it so much. My favorite thing about Eldar is their tools aren't good at everything like they were in the last codex, right? Banshees don't kill vehicles well. They kill them okay if you have shrine tokens and but they don't kill them well. Fire dragons don't kill anything but vehicles and monsters well. So Ynnari has very specific tools that need to be applied in specific ways, and I like that because it gives me an opportunity to use the movement phase to kind of get my best opportunities, my best matchups.
For me, currently Green Tide, my current list is literally a border control capability list with I get 1 turn of efficiency ever, right? And I don't like to play pressure. Every time someone makes me wand turn 1, I'm like, I hate this, and I hate you.
That's great. We're a few minutes over, Noah, but I want to finish. There was an ugly that I really wanted to mention that I waited for you to come back for.
Yay!
Not political. This is not political.
Easy.
There are international tariffs. They're really bad. We can acknowledge that that's a thing. They're a lot. Whether they're bad or not is political. Sure. There's tariffs. They're a lot. They're on all of the other countries. Okay. That is an ugly thing for gamers. And I want to acknowledge that, and I want everyone to be, if you don't know that, you need to be aware of it. Fantastic, fantastic interview with Steve Jackson. Steve Jackson Games is one of the best board game producers. If you went to Aegis, I bet there's 15 games from him on the shelves.
Okay.
Huge producer of board games, okay? So he said, here's the math. I won't hide anything from you. Here's how much I pay overseas for parts for my board game. Here's how much I pay to have it produced. Here's how much I pay to have it shipped. Here's the margin here's the marketing amount. Here's the development amount. Here's how much profit I make. If my costs go up, this is how it looks. And he said that a $25 board game becomes $40 for him. And the reason for that is that gaming materials aren't made in the United States for the most part, and that's not going to scale up. So if you're a gamer, and it isn't just Games Workshop, I don't know how it affects Magic the Gathering, but I know Magic the Gathering is not printed here. So there's all of these nerd games that are from overseas, and I don't know how this is going to affect all of it, but I'll tell you right now, if there's a 50% tariff on England, 40K is going to be a real problem. I don't know what the tariff on England is, or if there even is one right now. Just saying that as these tariffs appear, that's a thing that's going to really make gaming expensive. So be aware of that and budget your life accordingly. I think it's an ugly thing.
And for the U.S. specifically, it's also straining the interactions at the border, specifically Canada. A lot of Northwest 40K players and Canadian 40K players play in the adjacent Canadian and U.S. tournaments. Yeah.
It's to the point where, for me, just to give people context, Vancouver's like an hour and a half for me, and it's closer to Noah.
We were talking about going over because we're going for West Coast. So talking about going over, and we were talking about purchasing some things from one of the creators over there and bringing them back. And then we had to go through the process of, we'll probably actually have to pay tariffs on these when we come back because they're cracking down at the border on the things you bring back. Even going to Costco now over the border is becoming complicated for people, and it's creating tension. So it's just generally not great for the feels, whether it's great long-term politically. Again, I will reserve my opinions, but for the feels currently for gamers, it sucks.
Yeah. During COVID, when I quoted the science side and thought it wasn't political, we got in a lot of trouble. So your chat is almost mostly Canadian. All right, I'm cool with that. I think that in this particular case, the other thing I'll mention is that my wife's store is in the Bellingham Mall, which is where Aegis is, right next to the Canadian border. And there is nobody in the mall. A huge part of Bellingham's economy is the college that's there and Canada. It's those things. So I'm a little worried that when the college isn't in session, if this doesn't get better, that people like Aegis might be like, I really wish there were more customers here.
So that's a normal thing. So we don't get very much business from Canada at all at Aegis.
Oh, okay.
They have a bunch of great game stores. The reason Canada comes down to Bellingham a lot of times is there's specific things that they can get in the US they can't get there.
Like Target.
Some of our also a lot of our things with any caffeine content. There's really big legislation in Canada on like how much caffeine and specific chemicals things can have. We do not have those rules here, for better or worse. So that's a big thing. But also, but for Aegis specifically, it's the college. And we've gotten very used to the fact that our performance goes down in the summer.
Yeah.
It's just always the case. People want to be out
context.
more.
I don't know the numbers, but like there's like 60,000 people in Bellingham and like 25,000 students or something insane. I don't know what the numbers are. But like half the population of Bellingham is college students. Just something like that.
And that school is one of the best creative writing programs in the world. So it does draw quite a lot of attention and funding.
Oh, okay. I went there.
It's good school.
I went there for 2 quarters and was like, boy, I don't like it here. But it wasn't Bellingham's fault. I ended up at the University of Washington. I liked it better. So, anyways,
fair enough.
I think that the tariffs are a thing that everybody knows is a scary thing. That the economy is going crazy. I just wanted gamers to be aware that nobody in America makes meeples. Like just as an example, meeples. Yeah. The meeple manufacturers are in Europe. They're not here. So it just, Steve Jackson said, I can't scale up production of board games. That doesn't exist here. When Michael Tempe was making Outward Realms, he had a problem where if he didn't want to make models overseas, his options were incredibly limited. So it's a thing. It's going to suck. I don't think anybody knows where we're going. Somebody says, Custodes!
They want you to play Custodes, Colin.
Okay.
I have that army on my shelf too. So far, any of the 3 top armies that get your votes, I have them all on my shelf.
Yeah, it's surprising that nobody's picking any of the 3 armies that Noah doesn't own. Actually, what's funny about that, Noah, is I think a lot of the armies you don't have hobbied up are armies I have hobbied up. Right?
They're all your main armies. They're
Eldar.
Tyranid,
you don't have Genestealer Cult. You don't do Eldar. You do a little bit of Eldar, but you don't really do Eldar.
I do specifically Wraith Eldar.
You do Daughter Eldar. That's what you do.
Yes. Daughter Dar. Yeah, absolutely. Daughter Dar only.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, you do all Idling Guard. Yeah.
Chuck and I have 0 armies that we both play, and we both own like 8 armies.
Well, because you have like you're like Chaos Prejudice or whatever.
I'm really not. It's just the thing I've never played. Just thinking about the Chaos.
You tell me all the time how much the rules suck.
Their rules do usually.
You're like Chaos rules all the same, and they all suck.
I will tell you that it's true. I'll tell you that if this Best in Tabletop thing was like a full-time thing and there were like hobbied models happening and stuff, I would be playing the new Demons detachment.
It is a cool detachment.
It is really cool. I love its rules. I love its models. Like I'm all in.
Would you just paint them all as Eldar and have your Bloodthirster be a giant solitaire? Because that's all he is actually.
I think I would use my inks to make it the brightest Demons army in the history of Demons armies. Is what I would actually.
That would be great.
Just like, why is your Bloodthirster neon orange? I'm like, why is yours not?
You should. I'll send you pictures. So JT Steiger is back in playing now. He has returned to the fold to start kicking people's butts. He's playing the Demons army, and he is specifically playing. He has brought his masterclass. He's brought his masterclass Demons army back. He's been painting up on it more, and it is in these vibrant pinks and blues and oranges. It's amazing. It's really good. It's going to be at West Coast.
So here's a hobby experience that I don't know other people have. So I painted the Vizark. Here's the Vizark. And he's
I love Vizark.
Cool.
I love that model.
Kind of cool orange, right?
Yep.
It doesn't actually go with my Eldar army, but like I was like, oh man, I have the Vizark left to paint before this tournament, and I grabbed orange ink off the shelf that I'd never used on a model, and I went, shh, and then I painted him more. And he's sitting over there on a cart because I only played him in the one tournament, and now he's not been returned to his permanent storage yet. But I keep looking over there and seeing that orange. You know what I mean? Like I keep looking and seeing the orange on the cart with everything else, and thinking I need to paint an army in that orange.
This is one of the reasons all my orcs pants are pink.
You just really like the pink?
I mean, I did one orc with pink pants one time. My kid walked through the room, stops, looks over, goes, "Pink orc pants!" when she was like 4.
Yeah.
And from that point on, the orc's pants were all pink.
Turtle serpent.
Turtle serpent.
Turtle serpent is
Okay.
the same thing.
That model, the Leviathan, is the best 40K model. I don't care what anyone says. It is the best model in 40K, period. It is the single greatest conversion piece anyone can use for any model. It's a freaking turtle. It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is great. And it's big. It's big turtle. It's much turtle wow. All right. Much turtle wow. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good episode.
You did awesome.
You did too. I came back and you had energy. Your energy was up when I came back, which I was worried that maybe you would be like, because this morning had been kind of rough, a little disheartening. Oh, yeah. Energy level be low, but the energy level was high when I came back. You did great.
Yeah, I forgot when I was talking about my morning, I forgot all about the fact that my CPAP developed a leak at 3:00 this morning. And my wife was just falling asleep and was very displeased with the noises my CPAP was making. But like, I'm all groggy and sleepy. And so like, she's bitching at me, but I'm like, I don't understand what you're mad about. Like, it's like, there's a leak. Literally the CPAP mask was literally shooting air out. And all she could hear is,
no. Also, I think when you got on our call this morning, you were like in kind of a lower mood. And I think you forgot something very important about this show.
It's a morning show.
It's really fun. No, it's fun. Once you get going, once we get riffing, it turns out we like to spend time together, Colin.
Yeah, it turns out. I talked about when you were gone, I talked about my competitive goals and like why the Better Human, Better Gamer tonight is so important. Like I talked about what being called a cheater felt like. Like I kind of dove into that. And then I talked about the armies that people suggested. And I also complained a little bit about the WTC terrain in a playful way. Cool. I showed my game with Alex McDougall where my entire army is poised to hit him in the first turn and you can't see any of it because WTC terrain. So
yay!
But it was cool and it's interesting and I like the point of it. I get it. All right, guys, if you're around, I'd really love it if you came tonight at 7:00 to Better Human, Better Gamers Reboot. I have the best guests I can come up with. I'm talking about an incredibly important topic. It's just going to be great. You can watch it later on YouTube. That might be in the middle of the night for you. What do I know? So please join us. It would really mean a lot. Noah and I will be back next Wednesday. Next Monday night, we'll do episode 2 of the Rogue Trader campaign. Episode 1 was hysterical. So I hope that people will. There was a lot of we have to impersonate this Rogue Trader with a stutter over comms, like the Star Wars, like the New Hope Star Wars thing, where it's like, no, everything's fine here. But then they're like, but the guy you're impersonating has a stutter. So then like our party leader's trying to do a stutter while doing the impression. And then another of our characters is a Southern preacher, and he started just doing these like elaborate, extravagant sermons about the Emperor and the Omnissiah and all this. So it was really a good time. And episode 2 of that will be next week. And then every Wednesday morning, unless Noah's new job says no, every Wednesday morning, we're going to do this. And it needs to be on Wednesdays, right, Noah?
We found out we've accidentally found out that Wednesday is the ideal day because multiple times now we've got new data slates and rules literally moments before we jumped on the call.
Yeah, we've done 3 episodes, right? And all 3 times we got new rules that morning, I think.
Oh yeah, initial data slate.
Yeah,
wild. Goremonger rules. Yeah.
Yes.
And then this now.
And in all 3 cases, they were the first thing that morning. So. Yeah, perfectly great. All right, everybody. He's Noah, and I'm Colin because somebody has to be, and we'll be back next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.